Today we're talking about compound inequalities. Compound inequalities are two inequalities joined by the word and or the word or. You can write the compound inequality x is greater than or equal to negative 5 and x is less than or equal to 7 as x greater than or equal to negative 5 and less than or equal to 7. You can read this as x is greater than or equal to negative 5 and less than or equal to 7. If we had to graph x is greater than or equal to negative 5 and x is less than or equal to 7, going to graph this first part in red. That means close circle all the numbers that are greater than negative 5. Going to graph x is less than or equal to 7 in green. That means close circle and all the numbers that are less than 7. Do you see how these two graphs would overlap? If we're graphing a compound inequality that has the word and, that means the graphs would overlap and they would look like this graph in purple ink. So what you would have to graph in a compound inequality is just the purple ink. Write a compound inequality that represents the situation. All real numbers that are at least negative 2 and at most 4. So all real numbers will be represented by x. At least negative 2, that means x is greater than or equal to negative 2. And at most 4, that means x is less than or equal to 4. We can write that as a compound inequality. Can we graph it? So this will be a closed circle at negative 2 and a closed circle at 4. Write a compound inequality to represent this situation. Today's temperature will be above 32 degrees but not as high as 40 degrees. So we can say today's temperature will be above 32 degrees but not as high as 40 degrees. Not as high as 40 degrees. That means the temperature will be greater than 32 and the temperature will be less than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's write this as a compound inequality. T is greater than 32 degrees and T is less than 40 degrees. And we can graph this. Means the temperature can be 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 degrees. If we have to solve r minus 5 is greater than negative 4 and less than or equal to negative 1, what we have to do is solve two inequalities separately. So first we're going to solve this one. Negative 4 is less than r minus 5. And then we can solve r minus 5 is less than or equal to negative 1. So let's start by solving negative 4 is less than r minus 5. That means we have to add 5 to both sides. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1, is less than r. So we've got part of our answer. And we can solve in blue ink. Plus 5 plus 5. R is less than or equal to 4. We can rewrite this as a compound inequality. R is greater than 1 and R is less than or equal to 4. Now we can graph this. 1 and 4. Open circle. close circle over here. So r is greater than 1 and less than or equal to 4. If we have to solve 4v plus 3 is less than negative 5 or negative 2v plus 7 is less than 1, we have to start by solving each inequality. Minus 3, minus 3. 4v is less than negative 8. Divide by 4 on both sides. V is less than negative 2. Or we have to solve negative 2v plus 7 is less than 1. Minus 7, minus 7. Negative 2v is less than negative 6. Have to divide by negative 2. What happens to the inequality sign when we're dividing by a negative? Okay, so we flip the sign. V is greater than 3. So now we've got v is less than negative 2 or v is less than negative 3. V is greater than 3. And we can graph this. Negative 2, 3. At negative 2 we would have an open circle. And all the numbers that are less than negative 2. And at 3 we have an open circle and all the numbers that are greater than 3.